You ready? Here we go.
Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Welcome. Pat, if you could spotlight, thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. Hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters with the show's prayer. Father Walters, welcome.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father, for everything that you do for our show. Now I want to run the show's video for our sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
And now I want to do something a little different. I'm sure that most of you by now have heard about Shapeways closure. And that certainly has affected a lot of different modelers and creators. And concern about who's going to replace Shapeways, and where do we get our 3D prints printed, and how are we going to do what we used to be able to do with Shapeways? Well, he may not have all of the answers, but I want to introduce you to somebody who is stepping forward to try to, in some way, take some of the problem off of your back as far as what Shapeways used to do. His name is Bernard Helen. He owns Mini Prints. Bernard, thank you so much for coming this evening. I can't thank you enough for doing this for us.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Bernard, tell me a little bit, before we get into what you're doing, your idea about helping modelers out to Shapeways, tell me a little bit about Mini Prints. What is Mini Prints?
Mini Prints is my obsession. That started because I was looking for an HO scale beaver for my own model railroad layout. So I have a basement sized layout in a room ostensibly 10 feet by 30 feet. I was looking for an HO scale beaver 5 or 6 years ago. And back then, nobody had it. And I thought, being a recovering graphic designer, I would make my own. I made the mistake of listing my little creation on Facebook, and happily, I guess a number of people asked me to create little critters for themselves. The company started up really in earnest on April 1st, so April Fool's Day in 2020. And if you remember back, almost 5 years ago now, there was a lot going on, or a lot not going on, I should say. So suddenly this transitioned into, the beaver led to a moose, and the moose led to an elk, and the elk led to a website that's got thousands and thousands of all sorts of creations in N scale, HO, S, and O scale. So it's become a full-time business. I have a commercial space because after I got my third 3D printer, my wife kicked me out of the house. So she suggested it might be a good idea to go 10 minutes up the road and get myself a place where I could collect printers. I have a full-time employee, Brett, who's been with me for almost 3 years now. And just added in a summer student. Sunny is working with me for the summer. So I've got some mouths to feed and a landlord to keep happy. So this has become a full-time proposition, turning out mini little critters.
It's funny, Bernard. I've known Bernard for a while. I had forgotten the beaver story, but I was there when you started, and I remember the beaver. I had forgotten the story though. Anyway, all right.
Well, I'll tell you that I did go on the internet and I did search for it, and there's certain things you shouldn't type on the internet, and looking for an HO beaver is one of them. So, so,
So Mark, so tell us, how can you help with Shapeways going out of business? What is your, how can you help modelers?
Sure. I mean, first off, I take no pleasure from Shapeways going out of business, and I'm sorry for people who have their money, who Shapeway has their money, and I hope people are contacting their credit card companies and are able to be made whole. The group that I've been talking to are content creators, and those are the folks that also have been really caught with this, because there are a lot of people that were really earning their income by listing models on Shapeways, and Shapeways had become a marketplace. Many people shopped on Shapeways, but also a lot of content creatives listed their models there. From my perspective, I guess I'm not really surprised that Shapeways went out of business, because I'd made the decision. Full disclosure, the first HO scale beaver ever created was printed by Shapeways. I always found them ridiculously expensive, and the lead times, didn't fit what I wanted to do. So I had never used them for my business. I had always, I collected printers and have far too many of them, and do the production in-house. But there were still a lot of people that were using Shapeways, and it's those people that I've sort of been speaking with quite a bit in the last week. And they're the ones that I think, from my perspective, it's a wonderful opportunity for my company. And I think it's one of these classic win-wins, because I've been talking with people who are looking for a home for their models. And these are people who typically don't want to deal with all of the nasty day-to-day stuff. They don't want to print it. They don't want to clean it. They don't want to package it. The most fun part for me is the designing of it. The worst part of it is the fulfillment. It's not a lot of fun to print it and package it and do all the mailing stuff. So that's what Shapeways did for a lot of people. And that's what I'm really happy to do if there are any people out there that are looking for a new home, because we're set up at Mini Prints, to sell 3D printed models. That's what we do. And I've got 2 people signed up already, 2 fantastic collections. And I've been talking to another 2 or 3 of people who, were on Shapeways, and they want to sort of say, okay, Mini Prints, you take care of this, add it to your catalog, everyone owns their own models, everyone gets full credit, they own it, it's their design, but I will take care of the selling and marketing of it.
Fantastic. You still open for other people to join?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it has to fit within what we do. So, I mean, if you are a creator and you go to miniprints.com, you will see the types of things that we have. I like little things. So there are a lot of creators out there that do big things, like they do, freight cars. I'm not looking to create another depressed center flat car. There's a company out there called 3D Central. They're doing a ton of big things. That's not where my sweet spot is. I'm called Mini Prints for a reason. So, I like mini things. I like little things. And I'm also not looking necessarily to recreate what we already have, but there's a lot we don't have. So the two collections that will be, it's going to take probably a couple weeks, but by the time we start through it and start adding them, they fill out the mini prints line quite nicely. So they're models that, I think fit our sweet spot. And, there might be content creators that want to split up, they might want to take some of their stuff and put it, with mini prints, and some of their stuff they might not want to, and that's fine. We're having a lot of really good conversations right now.
And so the people just go to your website. How do they contact you?
Bernard at miniprints.com. It's on the website. It's not hard to find me. My name at miniprints.com, just like the website. And, very happy to look at some of the designs. There are a lot of people out there that have one or two designs, not everyone on Shapeways had, 5,000 things. There could be people that just, they came up with this one thing. It's the thing that they sell. And, if we can give them a new home, and that's a win-win for both of us.
So, and you pay them when you sell one of their products? I mean, they get a royalty?
Yep, exactly. It's a royalty model. So we'll take care of everything. They just have to, we want to make sure that the files print well, and, I'll make sure that they're happy with the quality of the print that they're, I'll send them a model that we print. You'll see that, oh yes, this actually looks like what I want it to look like. We'll agree on a price. We'll agree on a commission structure. And then, we've had, I think in the last 4 years, we've had well over 6,000 customers. So we've got a good database of people. We do orders every day. And, I think a lot of people know we get a lot of traffic to the site. So it's a good exposure for people who want to list their models.
And before you leave, listen, I appreciate your offer for the discount. You want to talk about the discount for the people that are watching?
I mean, there's the people out there who have models, who are designing and who might want to sell them, but the vast majority of people who would go to Shapeways and buy a, fill in the blank, whatever you're looking for, a porta potty or a 3D printed beaver, or one of the thousands of other things we have. Miniprints.com has lots and lots and lots of printed things. I mean, my sense of humor.
Yeah.
I tend to like things that are a little odd, a little different, things that you might not find, on your typical site, maybe something that, the Prizer or Woodland Scenics hasn't come up with yet. So I think we're known for a collection of things that are a little bit fun, a little bit unique, and a little bit different. And if you would like to go shopping at miniprints.com, for anyone who's watching, I've put in a discount code NEWTRACKS, just like it says on the banner behind you. NEWTRACKS, upper or lowercase, one word, NEWTRACKS, will get you 15% off all unpainted mini prints at miniprints.com from now until the end of the month.
Anybody have any questions for Bernard?
Yeah, Jim, this is Bob Gelmacher. Bernard, I've bought a number of things from Model U in Great Britain.
Yep.
And part of their business model is to sell some of their STLs.
Yep.
Do you see that in your plans?
Never, not a chance.
Okay.
Not at all. The reason being, It's all I've got. Like that's my intellectual property. That's how, mini prints goes. I don't understand that model, and I don't, the problem is once the STL's out there, it's gone.
Oh, I agree.
And I mean, look, there's going to be the point at which everyone in the world has the printer. And that will be the only way. But then I think by that time we'll basically say to our computer, make me a, 3D crate filled with whatever, grapefruit, and it will just spit the model out for you. But happily, there are still people out there that, want it. One of the things that I've done, because there are so many people out there and so many files, is everything on miniprints.com can now be ordered painted or unpainted. So initially we were all just unpainted. So, you'd get a model and it would be, your little crate, but now everything that Miniprints does, all the animals, all the objects, there might be a few things I haven't listed yet, but we offer painted options, for an additional fee. So happily for my business, there are still people that want to order physical things and still people that want to order physical things and have them painted by us, by our artists. But I just don't get the selling the STL file because it's
Are most of your products printed on resin printers or
all
mixture
resin. Yeah.
all resin? Okay.
Yeah. I only do 3D resin printing because for what I do, which is, the little tiny stuff, it's you need that kind of detail,
Yep.
for the resin printing. I've also, like Model U, moved to a lot of 3D scanned figures, and I was very pleased because there's a very talented figure painter in Australia, Ian, who does the painting of our figures. And I asked him, I said, how do our 3D scans, compare in quality to, and I named, 3 or 4 of the big names out there, Model U being one of them. And he said that we are equal to or better than. So, I'm thrilled that, we are able to compete.
Well, folks, I know that Bernard's got other things to do. Bernard, thanks so much on such short notice agreeing to do this tonight, because I think it's important for people to have some idea of the options that are available to them. And certainly your company to me is one option. So
Well,
thanks
thank you.
for doing it.
And if anyone is going to be at the St. Louis RPM, I will be there doing 3D body scanning and displaying a couple of modules with some fun stuff on it. I won't be selling anything, but I'll just be down there to sort of say hello to people. So definitely please, pop by, say hello if you are going to be in St. Louis. It's a great show. It's a lot of fun.
What's the date of it? What's the date?
Oh gosh, it's coming up quickly. I leave Wednesday. It's not this weekend, but it's next Friday and Saturday. So is that the 19th and the 20th, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as they say in the movie, see you in St. Louis.
Have a safe trip. Thanks so much, Bernard.
All right, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Now, I want to talk a minute about the National NMRA Gauge Convention in Pittsburgh, September 11th and the 14th. The organizers of the convention have graciously donated a table to New Tracks, where we can attend the show, and the people representing New Tracks would be able to have a free entry to the show as part of our understanding with the free table. So if you're interested at all and you're planning to go to the show and you'd like to have a free entry and help out at our table to represent New Tracks, please send me an email. My email address is jimkellow, JIMKELLOW @newtracksmodeling.com. The show is from September the 11th to the 14th in Pittsburgh, and it's the annual National NMRA Gauge Convention. So please let me know if you'd like to help out and be part of the New Tracks table with that. The other thing I want to mention briefly is we need help in producing our shows. Right now, Pat Rivard and Phil Edholm are the only 2 people that really are up and running and able to produce our shows for us. Phil is going to be gone for the month of the end of July through the month of August, which leaves Pat Rivard, the only person here that can run the New Tracks production for our shows for that period of time. And we desperately need some help, because just one person having to have that kind of responsibility is just too much a load to ask for anybody. So if you feel that you could help us out, even if you don't want to do it long term, even if you just want to help out during a period of time where we really need help for Pat, please let me know. Again, my email, jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com. Now I want to introduce Martin Breckbiel, who is the editor of our newsletter. And Martin has a message or two for you. Martin, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Quick couple of brief points. The August draft for the newsletter is up to 40 pages, although Jim just sent me something which will make it 41, at least, going forward. But what I'm really looking for is some more variety in content. We had authors now and then throwing some interesting little stories, sidelines, some pictures, some ideas, what have you. We could use them to all come back soon. I know it's summer, vacation time. It's terribly painfully hot everywhere, apparently in the entire country, according to the news tonight. 127 going to be in Death Valley tomorrow. So don't go there. Go to your basement and write me an article and send it to me. And that's all I got, Jim.
And let me mention one other thing. Take a couple of pictures of your railroad, write a paragraph, and send that to Martin, because we really would like to see some of what you're running out there and what your model railroad looks like. And it doesn't have to be a 20-page article. That's not what we're asking for. Just a paragraph or two and some photos. Show what you got.
Yeah, just a couple, 2, 3, 4 photos and a sentence or two that goes with each one. That's enough right there.
As we say, Martin's easy.
Oh yeah, that's been said like never.
Thanks so much for everything you do, Martin. Appreciate it.
And I'm in the middle of a major thunderstorm apparently, so if I fall off the air, you'll know where I am.
I got you. Now I want to go back to Phil Edholm for just a minute. For Phil to show us something that I think is kind of cute. It's called Cat Lady, I believe. Phil? Did I lose Phil?
No, you didn't. Hang
Okay.
on. I'm trying to get this in the right mode here. It wasn't in the right mode. You got me off guard. I was paying attention and not listening. So this, I got this and I thought this was really interesting and someone we know. So this is from Interaction Hobbies. This is the Crazy Cat Lady accessory kit, complete with 17 cats. And I don't think any model railroad could be complete without having one of your houses have a cat lady in it. I think it's completely something we need. So just a little thing to kind of brighten up your day.
I think it's kind of cute. I've never seen it before. Phil said it to me, and I thought, oh, we got to put that on the show.
And Bernard, we're waiting for your version too.
But we need Bernard needs to do it with his beavers, because if you haven't seen his beavers, you really missed something. Anyway, to continue, because we're running. This is a long show tonight. I hate to say it. I want to mention that we have expanded the S-scale part of our monthly shows that we're doing. We were doing an S-scale modeling segment on the show, and Jamie Bothwell was the host for it, and the National Association of S-Gauge Association was the sponsor of it. Well, now we're adding a second, and this is S-high rail modeling. This is the equivalent for S-scale as Lionel's high rail is for O-scale. So this is the American Flyer modeler and any other modelers that are high rail S-scale modelers and not S-scale modelers. So we're adding this segment, and this will be running the same week as the S-scale segment of it is run. The host of it is Joel Weber, and the sponsor of it is American Models. So this is going to be starting shortly, and I'm really happy about this because this gives us for S-scale the equivalent that we've been doing for O-scale, and that is covering the modeling for both the 100% O-scale and the O-scale high railers. And now we're going to be doing the same thing for the S-scale S-scalers. And I think it's important to show the modelers in both of those arenas and what they're building and how they're building it and their interest in what their railroads look like. And I think you're going to be amazed at some of the railroad modeling that you see from both the S-scale and the S-high rail modelers. Now, with that said, I want to talk a minute here about the My Build, the one that's coming up the 24th of July. And the reason I'm talking about it is Chris is on vacation and Greg is with his daughter and their son-in-law to hear about the potential of him becoming a granddad. And I thought it was much better for him to spend the time with his daughter and son-in-law than here with us this evening. So I'm the one that's going to be talking about the My Build. It's the next one coming up is July the 24th. It's whatever you're building. It doesn't have a feature or anything like that. It's just whatever you're working on or have built in the past and would like to show us. It can be your model railroad. It can be an individual structure. It can be a car. It can be a scene. It can be anything that you're building. That's what it's all about. Then August the 21st, we do have a special, and it's called Harvest. And this is one of the features that you, the viewers, indicated to Chris when he did his survey last week, you wanted to have done. So this is Harvest. This is farm equipment, grain elevators, hopper cars, tractors, agriculture, barns, chicken coops, livestock, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, it's all about the harvest. And that's the show for August the 21st. So that's what I wanted to mention to you about the My Build segment. And moving along from there, I want to open the show and introduce as our first guest tonight, Joel Weber. Joel is the spokesman, chairman, I'm not sure exactly what all titles he has, of the S-Fest in St. Louis this October, the 20th to the 24th. I'm sorry, Joel, you'll have to forgive me. I forget the dates. I'll let you talk about the dates. But Joel is here to tell you about it.
Okay, I think I'm off mute.
You are?
And you see my screen?
No.
I need your guys to help out with that.
So your camera, you have your camera turned off?
The camera is turned off.
Okay, do you want to share a screen?
Yeah, if I knew how to do that.
So at the bottom in the middle, it says share. It's got a green arrow, green box with an arrow in it. See
How
it?
about that?
Click on that, and that will open up, and the upper left image is your screen. So click on that and then share
Okay,
that.
so then I need to drag my presentation over there.
Well, if you've got two screens, you can share the second screen too.
Yeah. Just trying to make that happen here. What screen do you see right now?
We don't see. You have to share it. You have to click on the screen and then click the share
I
icon.
see. All right. I'm going to share this screen and share. Now I think I'm getting there.
So we're seeing the Zoom. There we go. Now we're seeing S-Fest. So now you can throw in a slideshow mode and you should be good.
Yep. Okay. All right. Very good. Technology is not my thing. I'm an old-fashioned, I play with toys, but I play with toys from a bygone era. Okay, S-Fest 2024, October 25th and 27th this year, of course, in St. Louis. You might ask, what is S-Fest? For those of you who've never heard about it, it's a convention of S-Gauge and S-Scale. And I say that because we have both. In the 4 clubs that represent or that rotate, there are S-Gauge guys and there are S-Scale guys. And, the one thing nice in, the one of the things in S is that the S-Gauge and S-Scale aren't so far apart. In fact, a lot of times we use the same rolling stock. We just use different trucks and different couplers. So the difference between O scale and Lionel's 027 is more significant in terms of the scale and the length and the size of pieces. Anyway, we hold this convention in the fall. This is the 47th S-Fest. We've missed a couple of years recently. One was the COVID year. We had a rotation amongst 3 to 4 clubs. The Chicagoland Association of S-Gaugers is who started it. Badgerland joined in and joined the rotation. And then I don't remember who came next, whether it was State Line, which is based in Rockford, Illinois, or the American Flyer S-Gaugers of St. Louis, which I'm now a member of, having moved down here 3 years ago. State Line's last slot went empty because, frankly, their club has just shrunk to the point they couldn't pull it off. So we skipped a year for that, unfortunately, as well. But it's rotated around, and it's just all about S-Gauge. Several features. One of the principal features, it's a swap meet of S-Gauge and scale trains and related merchandise. It's not just trains. It's trucks and cars. It's scenery material. It's displays. It's anything that relates. Parts. During the show, we put on 4 to 6 clinics of various topics that are related to our hobby. I've given a couple clinics. I've given a clinic on wiring. I've given a clinic on using Sculptamold to build mountains. That's my favorite medium after trying out a couple different choices. We do a model contest. People will bring things they've built, and it could be a train car. It could be an engine they've modified, but it's also they'll bring buildings, that sort of thing. And so they get we get a chance to vote on the winners there. There'll be operating displays. Our club layout will be on display, for instance, at our show here. There may be 1 or 2 other small displays. We do tours of local layouts. So people who come down to this can come see various people's layouts to compare to what they've done or get ideas about what they'd like to do. We do have convention cars that are tied to the convention, and then we'll have a banquet with a speaker and an auction of stuff on Saturday night. Speaking of cars, these are the 2 cars we're featuring this year. They're American models, TOFCs, in the Missouri Pacific and in Chicago and Eastern Illinois. Both of these trailers are unique. American Models has not issued these paint jobs previously. Once we sell out ours, they will never bring out something that hasn't sold out from one of the clubs who've used them for their cars. But that's what we're featuring this year. So the way to get signed up, you go to our website, which is trainweb.org at AFSGSLA. We have no limit on attendees. I don't imagine we'll go over capacity there. There is a limited number of tables and convention cars, so don't delay too long if you want to come. On that website has all the information, the hotel where it's being held, and we have a room block there, the car, the sign up, the whole 9 yards. You can sign up online and mail in a check, or you can print it out, fill it out, and mail in a check. We don't do an online payment. Those things are complicated and expensive, and frankly, this has worked very well for all the clubs. And the fact that we've gone to online entering was a major step forward from years past. So that's basically what we are and what we're doing, and we're pretty excited. The sign up is running ahead of last year's, which is good. Like all things train related, our attendance has been down. You go to any train show, they're not what they used to be. Go to Yorke, you can actually walk down the aisles, that sort of thing. But it's holding strong, and the people that come are enthused and invested, and we're just trying to get more younger people involved in that sort of thing and try to expand and reach more people. If my grandkids get older faster, then they'll help build that, because they love pop straights. So I don't know if there's questions or anything, but that's who we are and what we're doing.
Joel, thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for Joel? I got lucky and found Joel in this convention, and I asked him to come on the show and to talk to you about it, because normally we don't get that much information about the S-scalers, and we're looking around trying to get as much as we possibly can. So Joel, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Now I want to go to HO scale modeling. This is sponsored by the National Capital by Mainline Hobby Supply. And Phil, if we could run that video, please.
Mainline Hobby Supply is your one-stop store for model trains in G, O, S, HO, N and Z scales, including locomotives, rolling stock, track, train sets, and more to help build your model railroad. We are the largest model railroad shop in the area, and we carry a wide range of model railroad supplies across scales. Our friendly staff is always available to help with your modeling needs and to special order anything you may require. Mainline Hobby Supply is in southern Pennsylvania, halfway between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We are only an hour away from Baltimore, and we are easy to get to from the 70, 81, 83, and 270 freeways. Plan to stop by on your next trip through Pennsylvania. Mainline Hobby Supply also has an online store that can cater to your modeling needs wherever you are located. With our large inventory, fixed shipping costs, friendly and knowledgeable service, and prompt shipping, consider Mainline Hobby Supply for your next online order. Use the QR code to access our online store.
And now I want to introduce the host for this segment of HO Modeling, Gary Sherrill, MMR. Gary, welcome.
Thanks very much, Jim. Share screen. Okay.
Got it.
Come on.
Yeah, Red Barrel Railroad.
Yeah. Okay, all I've got is a Zoom screen.
Nope, that's what I got. Phil, can you help Gary?
You're sharing, are you sharing the ad? Did you share the slideshow? Just go and throw it in slideshow mode. We're seeing the slides.
Oh, you're seeing the slides?
Yes, we're seeing the slide. We're seeing the slides. So you need to throw it in slideshow.
Okay.
At the top.
Yeah.
Custom
From the
slideshow.
beginning. Just hit from the beginning over there on the left.
Right.
On the left, from the beginning, or from the current slide. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to see part two of Casey Casser's double-decker railroad. The bottom deck we saw last week. This week we're going to see the upper level. Now, in the upper level, I want you to keep your eye on these cars as this video starts. And you'll see something happen to one of the box cars. And as we're playing this, keep an eye out for that unusual car that is running around the layout. Okay, there we go. You see that object going down the ladder on the boxcar? Okay, this is as I said, a double deck. It's in a room by 28 feet by 30 feet. It's two levels. We're seeing the top level. The top level is from the floor to the top, 60 inches. It has 6 main lines 106 feet long. The upper level is 600 feet. The buildings are scratch built, and he has 150 Campbell kits on this layout, plus other manufacturers that he's built, and also scratch built buildings. He has over 1,000 cars, 400 plus engines, and a lot of the engines were scratch built and custom painted. He started building this layout in 1972. And as we go through, you'll see the trains running through. You can see his shelving on the walls of this room. Every wall is just filled with shelving, engines, and cars that Casey has custom painted and built over the years. It's an extremely beautifully built layout, lovely buildings. The reason it's called the Red Barrel, as you see, and we go through the video, you will see red barrels throughout on the different buildings, beside the different buildings. It's well scenic. It's got hundreds and hundreds of trees. Keep an eye out for that odd little item that's runs on this layout. While I was videoing this, I happened to see this thing go by. I wondered, what is that? He started in the hobby at the age of 9 when he received a American Flyer train set. And things just took off from there. And he's still building Campbell kits. Whenever he goes to a train show, if he can find a Campbell kit, there's Casey there. He finds a Campbell kit, he usually buys it, and he ends up building in the kit.
It's just an unbelievable layout.
It is a beautiful layout, Jim.
Unbelievable.
It's worthwhile if you've ever come into the Chatham area. Just get a hold of myself or the Chatham Model Railroad Club.
Yeah.
And it's well worth going over to see it.
We lived outside Detroit for years. I wish if we still lived there, I'd drive up.
Yeah. You can see his walls, they're all covered with shelving. And on every shelf are engines or cars.
Yeah.
Could you see the
What on earth was that?
That's what I was hoping that we would get a glimpse of. When I first noticed that, it's a caboose. When I first noticed it, I saw it go by and I wondered, where's the train?
Yeah.
Well, Casey took the caboose and motorized it. And it runs around his layout when he's running trains.
I'll be darned.
Never seen that before. Actually, when I did this video, this is the first time I've ever seen that.
I think you're creating a new classification.
You're right.
Unidentified train objects.
Yeah, I was videoing it and I looked at that thing and I thought, what? That's one of the unusual. It's the same when this video started. If you saw the boxcar, you actually saw an object walk along the top of the boxcar and down the ladders on the side. And we looked at that and looked at it and thought it was a little man, but it isn't. I'm pretty sure it was a spider.
You know, the planning that he had to go to create this is just unbelievable.
Yes. What surprised me was he never connected the two.
Yeah.
Like they're actually, the upper is separate and the lower is separate. But that's what he wanted to create.
My hat's off to him. He's done a beautiful job.
Yeah, the buildings of the layout are really spectacular. He's done a really beautiful job.
Yeah.
And he, like what he'll do, he'll see a prototype CN engine in first generation diesels, and he'll reproduce that. It's not manufactured, but he does the research and then gathers the parts and scratch builds the parts and puts the engines together. He's got some beautiful engines that are non-productive.
It's what we call modeling.
Yes. He's a really good modeler.
Yeah.
Nice little water scene.
Yeah, look at the water.
He's got the conical, there it is right there. Conical models.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has two of those. Now, as you go around his layout, the reason what I'm coming to is he's actually got steps that you go up to get the people a little higher, so you can get a higher view of the layout. And that's what's happening. I'm going up onto a walkway, and then I go back down and then back up again. What's interesting also, as I had said before, every wall in that room has shelving, and the shelving is all full of cars and engines. It's just amazing to go in there.
Okay.
There's Casey.
Well, this is certainly a really great treat, Gary. No question about it.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh, yeah.
It is nice to see quality layouts.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey's is a quality layout. It's what one can do in HO scale.
Yes.
And this layout's extremely well done. A nice farm scene, crops. And as we swing around, we're going to see his the big turntable on the bottom and
Yeah.
the engine facility on the top here.
Hmm.
And we've come to the end. And that is his layout.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and thank him so much for allowing us to see it. This is really absolutely gorgeous. Does anybody have any questions for Gary? Gary, thanks again. We really do appreciate it. This is really an outstanding model railroad.
Thank you very much, Jim. It was a pleasure. Thanks
Thank you
for the
so much.
opportunity.
Thank you. Well, now I want to go to N-scale modeling. And the host for this is Clem Harris. But before I introduce Clem, I want to introduce National Capital Trains, who is a sponsor for this segment.
National Capital Trains is the largest supplier of N-scale modeling products in the state of Virginia. We have been in business since 1989. We carry a full line of modeling products, specializing in N and HO-N3 scales. We carry a large selection of competitively priced high-quality N-scale products from Atlas, Bachmann, Digitrax, Intermountain, Cato, Microtrains, NCE, Pico, Rapido, Soundtrax, as well as Brass. For foreign railroad train aficionados, we offer a wide selection of Japanese and European prototype trains. We are located 20 miles from Washington, D.C. in Springfield, Virginia. We are a short 7-minute drive off Interstate 95. Stop in and see us for the best in N-scale. We also have online ordering on our website, including great prices and expert advice. Call us for your N-scale modeling needs and advice. Use the QR code to visit our website. We look forward to serving you.
And Clem, as everybody knows, is a real railroad engineer, so he's running his real train this evening. But he did send us a great video. So if we could run the N-scale video from Clem Harris, Phil. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Clem Harris, your New Tracks Modeling N-scale host. And for the month of July, we're going to talk about N-track and the standard that it has created within the N-scale community. As a little bit of background information, when I was researching this, N-track was started in 1974 by a gentleman by the name of Jim Fitzgerald. He started publishing a newsletter with the intent of being able to communicate what was new and exciting in N-scale. That newsletter and that exchange of information ultimately became N-track in 1994, and it was formally incorporated as an organization in the year 2000. That letter, you can actually still subscribe and get that newsletter from N-track. And then additionally, looking at N-track, long about 2021, they changed their name formally to NRail. And it's just the procedural of a part of being incorporated and being a not-for-profit organization. I'm most familiar with NTRAC and its standard. The local club that I belong to is the New Mexico Rail Runners, not to be confused with the local commuter service here in New Mexico. They've been very good to me over the years. They've kind of taken me under their wing, and I've learned a lot about weathering and detail and various things. But NTRAC is the standard that I'm most familiar with. And in today's presentation, I'll cover what those standards are, what those modules look like, and what the expectation is if you were to show up to meet and you had an NTRAC module. I look forward to sharing this with you this month, and happy modeling. Welcome back, guys. So as you saw from the slides that I shared, this is a generic brief overview. There is the ability to add more tracks that is covered through N-Track. But again, I just wanted to hit the basic standard of what N-Track is, what it looks like, what it feels like. And this is, for me, N-Track kind of holds a special place to me because it's where I really got started in the hobby and got a chance to see what a modular layout could do and what it could be. And I've seen our layout as we've had to move from different stores. I've seen the club layout go and take on a lot of different forms. It's even been, some of the modules have been to various shows that have been in the area. So the group is able to set up and do a lot of different things, and there's a reasonable amount of flexibility because you have a set standard. As we discuss some of the other standards later over the next couple of months, between T-Track and then between the Fremo stuff, I don't have any experience with those yet. And when I go to the Evanston event later this month, I intend to do some snooping around and reporting, and just to see what T-Track is about and what Fremo is about. Admittedly, I'm a little bit more excited about the Fremo event, the Fremo modules, because there appears to be quite a bit more flexibility in not only how the module can be built and the shape the module can take, but it allows for a lot more creativity. Whereas N-Track, this isn't a good or a bad thing, but N-Track is more rooted in an older standard and a little bit older way of thinking. My perception of T-Track right now, and don't beat me up for this, guys, please. My perception of T-Track, the straight modules are really neat. It's the curve, because you're restricted to using Unitrack on any of the T-Track modules. The curvature gets a little bit different to me. But that, again, please don't beat me up. That's just my perception. So far, like I said, N-Track is what I obviously have the most experience with. And again, we're just wanting to kind of get a general perception of what's out there, what you can do, what each standard allows you to do. As I shared in some of the videos that you saw, there's a lot of little neat different angles you can get. And with being about 40 inches tall off the floor, the deck height, this allows little ones to be able to see what's going on too. Because like my kids have spent the last, 11 or 12 years around the N-scale layout that the New Mexico Rail Runners has. And so they've been able to go from just barely being able to see over the top of it to now two of my children are adults now, and one is almost an adult, and they've been able to kind of grow up around the layout and see and get a different perspective. And that, to me, that's actually been probably one of the best pieces of being in a club and having a set standard. I've been able to take my youngest, my son, and be able to show him very basic things like how to read switch points and tell where a train is routed to. I've been able to teach him basic railroading concepts that I use in my daily job, of like lining behind. Like when you make a move through a diverging route on a switch, you go back and line it back for the straight track movement, as generic housekeeping. So again, the N-Track is always going to hold kind of a special place in my heart. What I enjoy in the hobby. I'm really looking forward to seeing what T-Track and what Fremo has up in Evanston. As always, guys, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments or concerns. And I look forward to sharing with you my perception of a couple different new standards that have come along in N scale. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate your time. Have a great evening.
Liam, thanks so very much. We really appreciate it and appreciate your viewpoints. Now I want to turn to Sherri Johnson for her technology segments. Tonight she's going to be covering craft cutters, I believe. But I also want to point out something that Sherri has done that I think is a benefit to an awful lot of people. Sherri has produced a document and posted it on our Facebook group, New Tracks Modeling, about things that you ought to consider if you're going to select a company to print your models like Shapeways, or whatever company you might want to select now that Shapeways is out of business. And I think her document is really going to be beneficial to everybody in the hobby, because it gives you, in my mind, guideposts that you ought to consider before just rushing out and saying this is the company that I ought to go to. So Sherri, thank you so much for doing that. I think that's really going to be beneficial to so many modelers. And I really do appreciate you posting it on our Facebook group. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I know, being in the 3D printing business, there are milestones and things that I would look for. And I want to make sure that other folks know what to look for too, to make sure that who they partner up with in the future to get their prints done is delivering what they're promising. So,
great,
and with
thank
that, we'll jump into tonight's topic, which is actually cutting tools. And we're going to get an introduction to cutting tools. And then the next couple of weeks after that, we're going to delve in some aspects. So let me get my screen shared here. Okay, everybody see that? Cutting tools and machines? Yay, hands-on stuff, no more software. One of the reasons we actually started with the CAD software first is one of the things you're going to find is with the new machines and technology, they're all going to need files that were created on the computer in the CAD software that we talked about previously. But first of all, I wanted to jump in with the different types of cutting tools and machines that we're going to discuss. We're going to look at some hand tools, some oldies and goodies, and maybe a couple of new ones that you haven't seen or thought about. Some power tools, actual craft cutters, which the folks in the scrapbook community use a lot, which I bought my first one a few years ago and I love it. We're going to get into CNC machines, just an overview tonight. And next week, we're going to delve in depth with craft cutters and CNC machines. And then at the end of the month, on the 31st, I believe it is, Bob Davidson is going to entertain us with his laser cutter, which I'm looking forward to that. All right, first up, hand tools. Things we probably all have in our workbenches, hobby knives. I use scalpels because dealing with resin prints and stuff, I need something a little sharper than a hobby knife, and scalpels are definitely it. You can tell by the number of urgent care visits and stitches I've had that they're much sharper than hobby knives. Electrician scissors. These are great. These are much better than a regular scissor. They will cut pretty much anything. They will cut leather, paper, wire, you name it. These will cut it. I've had this pair, 45, 50, more years than I'm going to tell you, and they're still going strong. Something we probably don't think about in the hobby industry, but toenail clippers. I know, yes, bad me. But toenail clippers are extremely sharp. Most of them come with a curved tip, which makes them ideal for removing sprues and support material without breaking any of your models or things like that, because they are very sharp. Wire cutters, which are a standard, also good for removing sprues and of course cutting wire. And then specialty scissors. These are straight blade, but you might have there's specialty scissors out there in the scrapbooking aisle, which are amazing. They cut zigzags and squiggles and like waves for water, which to me would be kind of cool to cut those little waves and stick them down into a scene to kind of get water ripples. Continuing with a few hand tools, good old wire and rod cutters and angle cutters. If you're doing any type of wood dowel or thin wood strips, these angle cutters are great if you need to replicate the same angle. The wire and rod cutters, I use these for cutting the brass rods when I make the axles for our bus kits. I can set a stop in there so I know that my length is going to be the same, and it's just lever activated, put in the rod, put it down. And unlike using your regular cutting tools, it does not flatten an edge. It actually leaves it round, which is important when you're trying to cut axles. You don't want that flat or beveled edge on the end of your axles. Some more hand tools, paper trimmers, hole punches, wire strippers, you name it. I've got leather punches that I use, different types of hole punches, wire strippers, of course, and this paper trimmer. I'm now on my second one, and I love this. I cannot cut a straight line with a ruler and a sharp blade. I cannot cut a straight line with scissors. Several years ago, I bought one of these paper trimmers so that I could cut some straight lines. And the new version is even better. It actually has a little wire guide so you know exactly where you're making your cuts. Here we're going to see a little demonstration of it. You can set where you want to cut your item, your paper, craft stock, card stock. I think I can do up to 10 sheets of paper at a time. We do our flags out of fabric. And when I need to cut out all of our little flags, our 50-star and 48-star flags, I use this craft cutter so I can get my clean, straight edges on my fabric. The other cool thing about this is it also has what they call a scoring blade. So if you're doing something and you want it to bend, because again, I can't bend a straight line either, and my bends always turn out crinkly, this has a scoring blade, so you can get in there, do the bend, and have a nice bend in your material. And I highly recommend getting one of these. It's one of my favorite things that's not in the workshop. It's actually here in my desk. Some power tools, good old standards. We've got the metal nibbler, which I warn you, leave sharp edges, so use leather gloves or hand protection. Your old-fashioned rotary tools, got to keep those Dremels going. Oscillating sander. I use this a lot when I want to sand flat edges. Unlike the Dremel, which is great for knocking things down, if you go too hard, it's going to leave a dip in what you're trying to sand. Where the oscillating sander is flat and it goes back and forth. So you're guaranteed that when you're done sanding, it's going to be a flat surface with no dips in it. And I love these little micro drills. I've got the Aeromax. Wow Stick also makes a comparable. I've got drill bits. I've got other sanding and grinding bits for this thing. It's fantastic. I keep this in my go-to bag. When I go to my sister's, I take this. And an interesting tidbit is the motor that's inside that little micro drill is the same motor that I use in the Invisitrax product, which lets you know that we've got strong motors in that Invisitrax. Had to get the plug in. Craft cutters. These are extremely popular with the scrapbooking folks, miniature dollhouse people, and with people who do quilting, because these can also cut material, which is really cool. Next week, we're going to delve into detail on these craft cutters. I purchased one of these several years ago, and it's one of my favorite tools. CNC machines. What does CNC stand for? Computer numerical control. Fancy term. Basically, it's machines that have blades attached, usually routing bits, other types of grinding bits. And the 6 most common types of CNC machines are milling, lathes. If you're all familiar with doing a lathe where you've got the material in long ways and it spins. Routers, which are pretty much usually for cutting 2D. Plasma cutters. God, I'd love to get one of these, but the spousal unit is like, no. And electric discharge machines. These actually use electronic current to cut through something. It's pretty cool. Again, next week, we're going to go into detail on CNC machines. Now, you say here, Sherri, you said 6. I only count 5. We're going to get to number 6 in a moment. those photos that I showed you are the very high-end machines, the ones that are 20, 30, 50, $200,000. For us hobbyists, we're going to be looking at more of the consumer grade machines. And those come in two different formats, an open format and an enclosed format. You can get them assembled or you can get them as kits. And again, next week, we're going to go into detail about these types of machines. Now, CNC machine number 6 is actually our laser machines. When you take a look at the industry, they consider laser cutters CNC. The difference is it's a non-contact. Still uses computers to control it, numerical stuff, but it uses a beam of light to cut your material versus an actual grinding bit. For those that want to know, laser actually stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, a fancy term for a really, really strong light bulb or diode. There are actually 4 types of laser cutters: fiber lasers, CO2 lasers, that goofy one there with all the letters in it that I have no idea how to pronounce, lasers, and the direct diode lasers. Different versions of these have different strengths and can cut different materials. Some can cut metals, some cannot. Some can cut plastics, some cannot. On the 31st, when Bob does this demonstration, we'll have more information about these types of cutters. Again, the pictures here are more towards the industrial versions. When we get down to the consumer level, the desktop version, if you will, most of those are your CO2 or direct diode. They're the ones that aren't going to accidentally cut through a wall if the laser gets misaligned. My next door neighbor works at Delta with lasers, and he has actually informed me that yes, they have cut through their cinder block wall with one of the lasers. So we definitely don't want one of those at home. We have, again, open format and enclosed format. They'll come in kit form. They will come already assembled. And some 3D printers actually have laser modules that you can add to them. Discuss more of that when we get to 3D printers in a future segment. So that is our introduction to hand tools and basic cutters. We're going to go in depth on the 17th, discussing the blade cutters, how they work, and CNC machines and seeing demos of those. And then on the 31st, we're going to get in depth with laser cutters with Bob Davison. And we hope to see you then. Any questions?
Oh, you got lucky tonight. No questions.
Just baffle them, and that's it. That's because everybody's fallen asleep by now, or the storms have gotten to them, because I'm watching rain out the window too. So,
Sherrill, I have a question.
Yes.
It's Pat.
Hey, Pat.
Which machine for your desktop would you recommend for cutting plastics?
Thin plastic?
Yeah, I'd say
Less than 3 millimeters?
Yeah.
One of the craft cutters, I have the Cricut. There's the Silhouette, and then there's the Brother, which we'll get into detail about those next week. But either one of those machines would be great. I have the Cricut. I'm now on my second one because I've burned through my first one. I used it so much. I use it to cut the thin plastic for our building windows, for our bus windows. I've actually really printed brick on the 3D printer, very, very thin, and then actually use the craft cutter to cut that to match the front of my buildings. So those craft cutters are great for cutting thin wood, thin plastic, and that sort of thing. They do not cut metal.
Thanks, Sherrill. And my daughter has one, so I might have to borrow hers.
Yeah, if she's got one, definitely go over and use it and take a look at it and see what it can do. It's, like I said, next week you're going to see a lot about what it can do. It's not just your scrapbooking cutter.
Yeah, I know. Thanks a lot, Sherrill.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sherri, I had a quick little question too.
Yes.
You mentioned hole punches, and I work in N-scale, and I know how difficult it is if I'm making a building, let's say out of cardstock, and I want to cut out each individual window. And normally I have to do so, with an X-Acto blade, and you can't use a ruler necessarily at that scale. It's just, you got to do it. And you do your best to clean up the edges. But I was trying to create some type of hole punch where I could punch out the windows, let's say in some cardboard or cardstock or something that was a square or rectangular shape. Have you ever seen a product like that or at all?
You need to go to Hobby Lobby, go to the scrapbooking aisle, and they have hole punches that will cut hearts and squares and triangles and rectangles. It'll be a matter of whether or not the square will match your window size. If not, then I would recommend one of the craft cutters, because I have cut things down to a whole 1 millimeter round circle with my craft cutter. So I'm sure that would cut a square window for your N-scale buildings. So first, look at Hobby Lobby. Also look at leather punches. A lot of times you can find a leather punch that's square, and that one you'll have to put on and whack it with a hammer. But both of those, like I said, look at Hobby Lobby, see what they've got. Look at Amazon, but I have seen the square hole punches. I have one out in the garage, but I want to say it's a 1/4 inch square. I also have an octagon one because for a long time I was using it to cut out stop signs. So they are out there. You just have to look for them. Worst case, you can craft cutter and program it to cut them out.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Sherri. We'll see you next week.
Right. Thank you.
Well, now I want to turn to Tom Farrell, who's back from his knee surgery, and he's joining us tonight to do another segment on his build of his Spillane building. And then I guess next week, Tom, you'll finish up the build of the Spillane. Is that right?
That's the plan.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, just give me a minute here. There we go. Yes, as Jim mentioned, I haven't presented for a month. I had the pleasure of having my knee replaced, and very painful experience, but we're getting better every day. So this is part 3 of the Mickey Spillane building, a New Tracks Watch Me build. And this is an original O-scale kit designed by the legendary modeler Thomas Yorke. It's his 50th anniversary kit. I don't know if Thomas is with us this evening, but I don't mean to embarrass him, but I always put him in high regard up there with John Allen, and it's just a superb modeler, and it's an honor to do this kit. This kit is produced by Frenchman River Model Works, and they're sponsoring this for New Tracks this evening. They offer kits in HO scale, S scale, O scale, ON30, and 1/24. They offer building kits. They're the exclusive distributor of Tom Yorke, his models over the years. I counted 46 on the website. They make boat kits. Perhaps some of you recall I did a 34-foot lobster boat, a rusted hull, and a wooden fishing boat from Frenchman River Model Works. They're excellent resin kits, extremely high detail. Resin kits typically have much higher resolution than a styrene injection molded kit. They also offer detailed parts, figures, and vehicle kits. I urge you to check them out after the show, FrenchmanRiver.com. That's enough of the ad. So this is part 3. I've only been up, my train room happens to be on the 2nd floor of my home, and I've only been able to navigate the steps the past couple days. So tonight represents about an evening's worth of modeling. Where I last left off is the back of the building has an extension, and I had put these 3 walls in place. In preparation for putting in the roof, they furnish you with this approximately 1/8 inch material. I super glued this to the resin. Now they offer a cardboard. I am not a fan of cardboard, so I replaced this with about 020 styrene. And instead of just a flat piece of styrene, I put basically 4x4s across this to add a little detail, a little interest to this otherwise flat roof. Then I just basically painted it sloppily with Tamiya acrylic paint. This was my first coat here. I'm going to cover this with a tissue paper that they provide in the kit, but you have to have a black base, otherwise you risk seeing white spots in your tissue paper. Then I went ahead and used another acrylic paint, a crafts paint. It's still drying in this picture because I did this evening. And this is absolutely flat black. And then this is still wet. This is the Elmer's glue. I took the tissue paper, I cut it with scissors to fit. Then I painted with Elmer's glue, I painted the entire base here. All of this, I just went over all of this with Elmer's glue. Then I stuck my tissue paper on there. So this is a nice effect. It looks like tar paper, see? And it looks like, you know, there's something going on here. So it adds visual interest to an otherwise flat roof. Now I'll go back and paint this, and that'll be next time. Next up, I had to do the second floor of the structure, and I really like to use this this American Accents Rust-Oleum rust finishing for my brickwork. It's basically a two-part process. This is an enamel, this is an acrylic. The first step is I sprayed the enamel on the second story components, the four walls. I spray it in 4 different directions. So I hit it north, east, south, and west. So I get thorough coverage. Light coats, you don't want to pile it on there. And then I, with that acrylic can and a wide brush, I begin applying the acrylic wash. And then with a rag or I actually used a paper towel, I dabbed it off. And that's what it looks like with the two-part process. Now, this is still early in my brick making skills here. The next step is I sprayed the 4 components with dull coat. I frequently use, and I've said this in the past, dull coat between different weathering processes. We don't like to add paints that dissolve base coats and muddy the colors. So a lacquer like dull coat, as long as you're not using a solvent-based paint, protects one acrylic paint from dissolving the other. So I sprayed everything with dull coat. Then I went ahead with this Roberts brick mortar formula, which is still commercially available. I bought this 18 years ago. Still have it's almost empty, so I'm going to buy another one soon. You just spray this on here. It's like a paste. That is what it looks like before you wipe it with I recommend using an old sock or a cloth to wipe off the face of the brick, and then you let it dry. Then I go back with a couple of colors of orange. These are rust colors. I just randomly picked 2. And I added a little variation in color here so I didn't have a uniform, consistent brick color. And then I also added a black alcohol wash. That's what you're seeing here. Now, when I glue this next show when I finish this. When I glue these, the second floor onto the first floor, I will tone out each individual wall, the first floor and second floor, so they match. If you don't do these things all at once, you get a slight difference in color. I will balance it out next show. This is looking down at the first floor. I want to put in a floor here so that if you look in the window, you won't see down into the first floor. If you look up through the first floor, you won't see the second floor. They provide this wood for that purpose. I cut it to length, super glued it in place, and not shown here as I painted this black. You'll see next week, but I painted this black and I put in a styrene floor. They provide cardboard. I don't like cardboard. Cardboard would probably be okay on the inside here. I didn't want it in the outside of the model for durability, but I'm putting in a styrene floor here. That is basically all I have. Like I say, I'll finish this hopefully next week on the 7th, on the 17th, I guess it is. And are there any questions?
Well, Tom, thank you so much for doing that for us this evening, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. I'm glad that your knee is getting better.
Day by day. Thank you.
Day by day. Now I turn to Martin Breckbiel MMR for his scratch building corner. Martin, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Storm seems to have passed us by, so I'm still here. And there we go. Why is this over here? Okay, well, anywho, on to the next project, I believe, and I think that might be what the next slide says. If I get the next slide, yes, on to the next structure. I'm going to stay on structures for July, simply because that's what I have available. And we're going to start with these parts. There's some leftovers and odds and ends. I got one of these windows. Okay, well, one lonely window does not make much of a project. Station or house door? Well, it's going to be neither, probably at the end of the day or the end of the project. It'll be a business of some sort. I have a drawer full of, well, not full anymore, but of odds and ends of shutters that I bought for a project, 5, 8 years ago, and there's still scraps left over. These shutters just barely match up with that window. So we're going to use up some of those to make some of those go away. And then I had a leftover window from Tichy, a work car window. Nice thing about some of the Tichy windows is that they come with laser cut glazing and shade material, which makes life incredibly more pleasant, because glazing windows I find to be one of the most tedious exercises possible. So without further ado, we're going to use clapboard. This is just Midwest clapboard. I bought a couple of bundles of it 4 years ago, 5, I don't remember, before it went ridiculously expensive. And I think I paid for a bundle of 10 what they now charge for a single piece, which is crazy. But okay, I was managed to be smart enough at the time to grab a couple of bundles, thinking, I could use this someday, and it doesn't take up too much room back in the corner against the wall. So we cut some out, and there's some 3/32 square stock and some 1x3 stock here to build up the front wall into 3 different sections. Cut some holes out, drop the window and the door in, make sure it fits. You'll almost always find that later it doesn't fit because after you painted it, the wood swells a little bit, or you get paint around the edges and you have to go clean it back open. But you make it fit pretty decently now, and don't worry about fixing it later. You have room to fix it, don't worry about it until later. Back wall over here to the right, 2 side walls to the left. Pretty straightforward. Sort of a rectangular box, almost square, in fact. But we're going to add a little side addition off the well, facing the front of the building. It'd be to the right side. That's just board and batten. I've been trying to desperately use up the last of my northeastern board and batten without much success. I keep finding more of the Dibond stuff in the box of siding. But that's where the work car window goes. So we cut a hole out, drop that in place, and make sure it fits, and we're all good. Oh yeah, so we'll go back to Sherri's note. I'm using scalpels. Just in case nobody remembers, I love using a scalpel. I'm using number 11, number 10, number 15, and number 23 scalpels, and lots of adhesive tape in case you slip on the glass. The only best thing about a scalpel is it does not roll off your bench. It's got a flat handle. So it's not going to land in your foot unless you drop it and it goes through your shoe into your foot. And yeah, I've done it once, right through the shoe. Okay, so flip these things over, and I'm trying to use up the last of my misbegotten bundle of balsa wood that I bought by mistake, but it makes great bracing and glue surface area. So we just add this to the back and outline where the roof is going to go and where the sides are going to lay in against the front and the back. Nice thing about balsa is when you use carpenter's glue, tight bond 1 or 2, it sets up very, very quickly, and you don't have to spend hours waiting for it to set. And you can just keep right on rolling. And we do some inner framing for the addition on the front and back walls as well. I mean, while you're cutting up balsa with a razor saw, you might as well just keep right on going and gluing it right up. Okay, we'll put some walls together. Okay, or put some wall together. Plural, walls. Next time, fix that. Okay, we'll glue this all up with carpenter's glue since we have all this nice gluing surface available. We don't need to use goo and CA. Carpenter's glue works just fine for this type of surface area now. You don't have to depend upon modeling glues for when you've got 3/16 of an inch. You've got plenty of surface area for tight bond to grab and hold, and a couple of weights up against the sides, and everything holds tightly. You can adjust it, make sure it's square with your modeler square on the inside, outside, whichever floats your boat, and let it sit for a while before moving forward. But I don't think we're going to move much further forward tonight. You can see, oh, that was interesting. Trackball has a mind of its own, sort of like my subconscious. So it moves right along. It's all glued up. This is the view from the other side. You can see, doggone it. The thing is out of control tonight. I'm not afraid to touch it now. So you can see, actually I have to touch it. Well, you son of a gun. Okay, trigger finger on the trackball system here. This roof area actually drops just below this crossover piece, so there's room for it to lay nice and flat here. We'll come back to that later. And I guess I'm going to the next slide, whether I want to or not. The trackball is decided for me, and I decided after the fact, let's add a back door, because you always need somewhere to go out the back door when the tax collector comes in the front door. And so we added this to the back. You have to relieve a little bit of the balsa bracing at the base because the grant line casting is actually a little deeper than the clapboard. So you have to carve a little bit out. So it's a quick draw the razor saw across the surface twice, left and right, take the number 11 scalpel, slice out a little section, the casting drops in, and I think it's just a regular 5-panel door. So there we go. And we're done for tonight. We'll see you next week.
Any questions for Martin? You're doing a beautiful job, Martin.
Well, it's, this stuff is all a lot easier than it can be made out to be much, much, much more difficult than it really is. This is a lot easier than some people think.
And it's much cheaper.
Well, if you're not afraid to buy bundles of, bundles of 10 by 3 foot long pieces of clapboard and other stuff and stick, it doesn't take up a lot of room, but sometimes it's worthwhile buying some bulk materials as opposed to individual pieces, because the thing is, you buy 4, the problem is you need 5. Then you got to buy 8, and then you have 3 left over. So if you have 3 left over, you make an extra building. Problem solved.
Absolutely. You'll use it sometime. Thanks, Martin.
Okay.
Well, now let's turn to Steve Sherrill. Steve, what do you want to talk about? Did I lose Steve?
Ooh, good.
He was here a minute ago.
I'm here. I'm
Say
here.
something.
There he is. I see him.
He's back.
That's anyway. What we're going to talk about tonight is what would we do if we wanted to change our layout and make it different from what we started out with. So, in other words,
whose picture are we showing?
Martin's.
That's one of mine.
Oh.
On a happier day.
Well, how do we get to my buddy Steve?
We're working on it.
Yeah, there he is. There he is. Okay.
Your
there?
Your minion's working on
it.
Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about what we would do differently if we were going to redo our layout. Now, would we make it bigger? Would we make it smaller? Would we make it a shop layout? Would we make it a big square? Would we make it higher, lower? And in my segment, I always like to call on some of the modelers who are on the Zoom live. So if I call you and ask you to participate and probably answer some of those questions, it gives us a chance to better know you and to know your layout. So tonight, what I would do differently is everybody knows I have a separate building. Well, when I moved into the building, it had a bathroom in it, and I took the bathroom out. Big mistake. And so I would definitely do that. Change that out. I also had a duct under. Definitely not, don't do that for me. And the layout is just too big for right now. I would have cut about 20 feet off of it, running length, and made it much smaller, because over the years, when you start out with an operating type scheme, you get a lot of people coming over. But as those people pass away or their ideas change and they want to do something else, you're down to just 1 or 2 people. So you end up with a big layout that you can't run by yourself. So this is some of the problems that I've run into. So if I were to ask that same questions to somebody like Burr Stewart, for instance. Burr, are you there? Burr? Okay. I see in the background of your layout, you have a 2-level layout?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, I have a 2 or 3 level layout it's got 2 main lines that are each wandering around the room. So it's like 300 or 400 feet of main line. And I have a couple answers to this. One is right off the bat, I would have waited to start my layout until I had some experience with operating sessions at other people's layouts. Because the big thing you run into is you design what you think is an ideal layout, and then you had someone else come over to play with you, and you realize you made a bunch of mistakes. And that, I wish I had waited to start. The other thing, of course, about waiting to start is the stuff that's available to us keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
And I just noticed the other day a product from DCC Concepts that's like I can't remember what they call it, like a super panel or something, which is even better than the mini panel that NCE has been providing for years for setting up push buttons and everything. And there was something else I was going to say I would do over.
Burr, are you?
Sorry, let me say one other thing. Of course, this has been said 100,000 times, but it's true. I would have, if I could do it again, I would have made at least twice as many staging yard tracks. And we just saw a layout tonight where the guy had nothing but rolling stock on all the walls.
Yeah.
And those weren't even in staging tracks. So my problem with storing rolling stock now is really difficult. And I've got all these boxes from buying the equipment in the attic, but getting up to the attic and getting those boxes out is a nightmare. So I guess I would, if I was starting over again now, I would pay more attention to how am I going to store all this stuff if it's not on the layout. Because that's infrastructure that you just don't think about, that kind of infrastructure. You just think about, I want to get track, I want to run trains and build scenery, buildings, and get it going with it. You don't think, well, this is a long-term equipment management, inventory control kind of hobby, and you have to figure out what you have, where it is, where the box for it is, and how to make shelves or closets or whatever that you can store all that stuff in.
Now, what scale are you?
Well, I'm in HO mainly, but I have a perfectly nice 4 by 8 foot N scale layout in the living room that my wife won't let me get rid of because we built it together before we had children. And it's still an excellent layout, and we love running N scale trains on that. So then there again, I have a bunch of N scale equipment and boxes. At least in N scale, it doesn't take your whole attic to store the boxes. And I have some O scale equipment that I would love to play with too. Just enough Atlas switches and stuff to make a shelf layout, but I haven't really gotten around to that. But boy, those O scale boxes are even bigger than the HO ones, of course. Of course, they're much bigger. So
now, is there any way that you could turn your camera around and we could get a little better look at your layout?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, you can also go to my YouTube channel and see lots and lots and lots, as everyone knows. You can see lots of my videos.
I always like to see layouts when you're, away from them a little bit. You get a little better idea of how big they are.
Are you seeing this? Are you seeing that right? Well, let me level it up. I'm trying to figure out, you're seeing this off the side here. Okay, good.
Yeah. I see you've got all those tools already, huh?
It's a little too big. I just got over here to turn on the lights.
That's okay, Bert. This is at the spur of the moment. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Anyway, I just want to get the lights on.
Okay.
So what got me going was the Interbay Yard in Seattle, and this is the model of the Interbay Yard.
Wow.
And I originally had this yard, which is about 20 feet long, in a different house. And then when we moved here, I was able to take it apart and move it here. So my big joke is that this ladder on the other end of the yard If you've ever been to Seattle, this is the Davis Street overpass, which is the best rail fanning spot in the city. And there's a car repair shed right next to it. But this ladder right here, see this
Wow.
ladder? See the ladder here?
Yeah.
And all these cars? So we've been switching cars in and out of this since 1985. And that's 15 years longer than the Burlington Northern even existed.
Wow, that's fantastic looking. That's huge. What size? How big is the layout? What's your room? What's your room size?
What's that?
What's your room size?
That's what I say. That's the room size is 24 by 30 with a couple of little tiny additions. I'm going to stop because you don't have time for this. You've always got a tight schedule on the show.
Hey, I'm gonna ask one more person. Rich Randall, are you there? Rich.
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, I know Rich models the Milwaukee Road. Now, Rich, was that your first choice to model?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I was in a group here in in Northern Virginia, and basically like Pennsylvania Railroad. I always liked electric railroads, so Pennsylvania was fine with the electrified, GG1s and all that stuff. That's what I was going to model until I discovered the Milwaukee Road.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and then the 600 miles of freight railroad going through the mountains was mind-blowing to me. I felt like I really liked that.
Now, some of your layout is electrified, right?
Well, it has catenary. It's just scenery.
Just scenery right now? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are technical difficulties in electrifying the catenary.
Now, if you were to do something different to improve your layout, would you make it bigger, smaller? What would you do? I know that some of your areas you have a problem, a reach problem. Would you change that type of setup, or would you how would you improve it? Your layout is possible.
It's funny you would bring this up. Some time ago, I made a list of all my mistakes, the big mistakes. So I could go through that if you like. It's got probably 8 different things on it.
Well, give us the first 3 because they're probably the ones that hurt the most.
Well, I failed to use a computer program to design a layout. I felt like it was going to take me too long to learn the program, and I wanted to get started building. But what I should have done is waited and designed it with a computer program. This way, you can reveal all of your design issues, electronically, where a crossover is not going to fit because you don't have enough clearance, or your grade's too steep, and you don't have enough vertical curvature built in. I just think a computer design is the way to go to avoid mistakes. So that's number one. Not enough staging. Has anybody said that before?
No. But would you make it smaller? What would you do?
No, I like the
make the
size.
layouts?
I like the size, even though I don't have enough years left to finish.
I know you run full-length passenger car, Milwaukee Railroad passenger cars. You got beautiful trains. Did that affect your design any? Because you have to have real broad curves to make those look right.
Yes, it certainly did affect how broad a curves I need, what you would call a minimum radius, which is about 66 inches.
Yeah.
To fit some of the bigger equipment, yeah.
you know, Rich's O scale does have some ON30. So, you know, your layout is how big? You got a whole basement full, I know that.
It's 45 by about 35.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I did try to fill it up as best I could.
Wow.
You know, it runs
Believe
from,
me,
sorry.
he's got a lot of nice trains down there. I'll tell you, he's really something. You know.
The lowest level staging yard is at about, let's see, I guess about 26 inches off the floor. And then there are levels that go all the way to the ceiling.
Yeah.
I wanted to model the Milwaukee in the mountains. So at Avery Yard, trains heading east go up into the ceiling, simulating going up the Bitterroot Mountains, the Rockies, and going west, it stays pretty much flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me go to Jeff Jordan. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jeff, how about you? You're kind of in the building stage. You've got your layout designed. Have you changed anything from your original plan?
I have started to think about some changes. The principal one right now that I'm thinking about is figuring out some way to get some more track. That I'm thinking about building a branch off the railroad, a logging branch that would be mostly a shelf layout, shelf addition, that I have some wall space where I could add a shelf and then we could branch off of the main line. I'm kind of inspired again by my recent trip and got some materials that showed on the Rio Grande Southern that there were a number of branch operations, particularly logging railroads, running Shay locomotives, bringing cut lumber or logs down to the Rio Grande Southern. So I really want to add that. I'm kind of constrained by space, so I can't add a lot, but the ability to run along the wall, and I have a Bachmann Shay sitting around doing nothing, and so I thought it would be fun to make that a branch operation. As you noted, this is a fairly new layout. I started over when I retired and moved from my old home, and so I haven't been building that long. And I made a number of conscious decisions when I started the new layout. For example, my old layout was 2 levels, had grades and so forth. This one, I consciously decided it was a single level and no grades, especially after I spoke to a custom layout builder who said that he advocates having the scenery go up and down, but the tracks stay level. And so I'm happy with that. And facilitates operation and avoids the unrealistic grades. So I designed it with that. I designed it with the maximum radius curves that would fit in the space available. And so also I'm happy with that. Building an ON30, you run out of real estate quickly because of the size of the structures. And as I guess you all know from having watched this program, I build a lot of structures and I'm running out of room to put structures in. So I'm actually reevaluating what's on the layout right now and possibly upgrading and replacing some of the structures. Some of the structures that originally were on the layout are generic. They don't particularly match anything in my prototype. And so I've been a little bit more prototype focused, looking a little bit more at getting more prototypical structures and possibly scratch building some more structures.
What radius did you stay with? What's your maximum?
Well, what I did, and I did this the old-fashioned way. I literally laid out brown paper on the floor in the space available, and then used a radius rod and swung arcs on the paper, and it worked out at about 21.5 inches is the radius, which works fine for the Bachmann stuff because the Bachmann equipment runs all the way down to 18 inches or less. I test ran everything to make sure everything I had would get around the curves, and it does just fine. Everything it gets around nicely. And again, modeling narrow gauge, tight curves are okay.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. All right, we can take one more.
That was my philosophy. That was the other big philosophy change in changing layouts. My old layout filled half the basement, was modeled on the Lehigh Valley Railroad near Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And you try and run pretty large trains, but until you get a huge layout, you're running 15 cars is a big train. And of course, the Lehigh Valley in its heyday was running much longer trains. On the other hand, there are plenty of photographs of the Rio Grande Southern running 3 and 4 car trains. And so I can run a prototypical train, small steam locomotive, a couple of cars and a caboose. And it looks just fine. Now I realize that at times they ran longer trains as well, but the editorial that appeared in Model Railroader, God, many years ago, encouraged people to think about narrow gauge because of their limited space, and that you could have a much more prototypical looking train if you had limited space if you modeled narrow gauge.
Yeah, and you don't really need as much equipment either.
Well, but that's the disease of all of us model railroaders, is that we collect more equipment than we need or can fit.
Well, the answer to that is
that is the other thing I did include in this layout is I do have 3 tracks of staging, so I can park 3 trains off the layout.
Yeah. Well, Alan Rogers, can you add a little something on this about your railroad?
Well, I'll tell you, I've got to tell you a little secret here, which is going to scandalize a lot of people. But my main thing is building structures, and that's why I started the company that I have. And I have a train layout because I sort of have to hang out with you guys. But I have an ON30 layout. Let me go ahead and see if I can sort of give you an aerial view here. Let me just unplug my computer. So I don't know how well you can see all that, but it's not really much to write home about after what I've seen this evening.
Huh.
But that's my ON30 layout.
That's me.
So
yeah.
I have to say my cloudscape turned out better than I expected, because clouds can be very tricky, but I used an airbrush and I layered the clouds on. So I looked at the sky one day when there were clouds, and I thought, well, there's not just one layer of clouds, there's several layers that cover up each other.
Yeah.
And I kind of added in some dark clouds so it looks like it wants to rain a little bit. And they turned out really well this time. And
yeah,
I tried to paint clouds with a brush for years based on a technique I saw online one time, and my clouds just never turned out with a brush. But with an airbrush, they came out pretty well. So that's really all I have to tell you about my layout.
Nothing wrong with that. Hey, nothing wrong with that. You enjoy sitting down there probably with possibly an adult beverage and watching the train run around. That's fine. That's what it's all about.
Well, I'm gonna put in a commercial plug. I don't belong to AA, but I have over 10 years sobriety. So the most adult beverage that I drink is mineral water. So there you go.
There you are. That's good. That's good. But thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Well, I want everybody to have an opportunity to join in on this segment. And every week or every time I get the privilege of being on here, I want to include as many people as I can. I think a problem that we have is we don't know each other. All I see is a name and a picture. I don't know you. And I don't mean you, Alan. I'm talking about everybody whose picture I see. And it's a real problem. until you go to a train show, a train meet, you meet them and you get to talk. And I think everybody on here wants to share their layout. They're all proud of what they've done. If it's a 4x8 or a 40x80, you know, we've all done the best we can, and we're willing to share it. We make mistakes, we learn from others, and that's what this is all about. So with that, I'll end the segment, and back to you, Jim. Thanks to everybody who shared.
Well, listen, you know, the 3-4 people that you had show their layouts tonight. Well, I tell you, I wish they'd take a couple of pictures and maybe write a sentence or two and send them to Mark, because I tell you, the 4 layouts that you showed, that's gorgeous work. That really is, and it's obvious that people are spending an awful lot of time and effort thinking about what they're building and what they want their model railroad to be. And if we can share that with other modelers, and frankly share some of the comments that you made of what you might do or think about now that you've built it and operated it for a while, what main decision you might have changed on the front end. I think it's an excellent question, but I really do appreciate everybody that talked to Steve tonight. And by the way, Steve, I understand that you got a lifetime award.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, what do you mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, talk about getting to know people. Tell us about your lifetime award.
Well, next week I'll show you.
Sit up straight now so that we know that you're scared.
I'll feature a video next week of him getting his award.
No, come on. I'm embarrassed. You know, I just try to always share what I've learned, and it's been a real pleasure, you know, for 70 years or so, talking model railroads, talking real trains. You know, started out when I was 5 years old with an American Flyer. And then when I was 10, my dad gave me a gift of $100 that I could spend. And of course, you know where that went for trains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a whole lot of history after that. I mean, I've made every mistake you can make with trains in 1952 that you could possibly make, you know. I mean, I didn't realize you had to cut those rails once you bent that track. I mean, I tried to do with pliers and all. I mean, he would just, every mistake you make as a kid, you know, but you enjoyed it. And you'd go to the sales when Atherton had a sale every year for 99 cents. You could get a car, and so you know, cut lawns, and you get $5 or $7, and you go down and get 5 or 7 cars. Engines were $4.95 a rubber band drive. You know, we went through. I was lucky enough to be, every time that a new period of modeling came, I was there ready to make the change, you know. And so I just kind of stuck with it. Always had a layout of some kind. My sister was an artist, and she used to paint the backdrops. You know, she was very talented. I've got a picture somewhere of my little sister and my younger brother at the train layout that I had made at that time. I always used natural products, you know, lots of dirt, vermiculite, things like this, you know. I was just willing to try it. I mean, it looked good. My next door neighbor was an HO model railroader, but he didn't have a train that ran. I had a train that ran, and he had the scenery. So we just go next door to that. So from there, it just kept on going. But the award I got was so surprised. You know, I didn't even know I was on this. You know, this organization that gave us 30 model railroaders, and it's very appreciative. You know, you just don't realize what people think of you, how they appreciate you, and I just, until you get something like this, you know, that award. But I'm just me, you know. I just love trains, love model railroading. And so sometimes I even get on Tom Farrell.
We'll talk tomorrow for that.
You
I
know,
know, but you never have corrected his spelling though.
oh, well, I've changed a little bit on it, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, something like right today or during this time period, you know, it's the fact that we can communicate with people in Australia. All we have to do is get the right time of the day. We can talk to Australian modelers and get their idea of what they're doing. And, you know, with Ian, Rod Hutchison, these guys, they're fantastic modelers. And they have a whole different approach to things. I just think that today's just a wonderful time to be in model railroading, other than the actual expense, which some of the stuff is outrageously expensive. But one thing I have noticed, and I saw this the other day, Lego model railroading is really getting popular. And they're starting to design things that look just like scale models. They're 1/28 scale. They're doing a K27. They're doing Heislers. They're doing Amtrak looking locomotives. And these are all, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 pieces. Their buildings look like they're, you know, are just like Craftsman buildings that we had today. All they need is the actual figures, the scale figures, and they would look fantastic on a railroad. So we're heading into that, you know, and the good thing about that is they appeal to the 7 to 12-year-olds who are next generation model railroaders. They will be going from Legos to real scale, we hope. They'll certainly be getting introduced to that. But the parents who are letting these kids use these Legos is just a way to, you know, enhance model railroading in the future.
That's a good idea.
Tom knows all about that, right, Tom?
Yep. Got 2 grandkids. I'm gearing them up with the Legos.
Are they scratch builders?
They're 2 years old and 4 years old. But when he's 7, I'll get him going.
So Steve, thank you so much for tonight. We'll see you next time. We really appreciate everything that you've done for the hobby and are doing for the hobby. And not just getting the award, but having a modeler like Al Judy present it to you must have been just really special for you. And we're so happy for you.
I tell you what, I had no idea. You know, Alan Littlefield got the first one.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's an excellent modeler. He's really out there with his models and stuff like that. And I'm not near the modelers these guys are, but I do share my hobby, you know, and talk about it and have my layout open anytime anybody wants to come and see it. We'll run it.
We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
All right, that pretty well shuts down our show for this evening. So, Phil, if we've got the caboose ready. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, hope you learned something. That's what it's all about. Till next Wednesday, best of modeling to everybody.